The rapid development of industry occurred in Britain in the late 18th and 19th centuries by the introduction of machinery. It was characterized by the use of steam power, the growth of factories, the mass production of manufactured goods, and the products for the first mass consumer markets sugar, tobacco, coffee, cocoa, and cotton. Slavery played a crucial role in the development of the modern world economy. Slavery was an integral part of the earliest multinational systems of credit and trade. European shipping, manufacturing, and gun making arose in the 15th and 16th centuries. The slave trade had become one of the largest, the most profitable industries of Europe. The profit was said to run as high as 300%. In the mid 18th century, a third of Britain's merchant fleet was engaged in transporting 50,000 Africans a year to the New World. According to the shipping records available, between 9 and 11 million people were taken out of Africa by European slave traders and landed on the other side of the Atlantic. Africans were treated as property. They lived terrible lives. Their lives was made even worse by giving them severe punishment. The harsh treatment meted out to blacks was legal. They were ill-treated, the British were inhuman towards them. They were punished 25, 50, or 100 hunters' lashes. Toussaint Louverture was born on 20th May 1743 AD in French colony of Santo Domingo, now known as Haiti. His father Gauguino, son of King Alada, was sold into slavery. Thus Toussaint was born into this slavery. But fortunately, Toussaint had a liberal master who let him read and write. He became an avid reader and read whatever book he could lay his hands on. He especially admired the writings of the great French philosophers. He could speak three languages: French, Creole, and Latin. He acquired some knowledge about medicinal plants and herbs. He eventually secured freedom from his owner but continued working for him out of his own accord. He married Suzanne Simone Baptiste Lavature in 1782 and settled into a comfortable life. Record says he had 16 children. 11 of them died, but for sure he had 3 legitimate children. In August 1791, a sudden slave revolt took place in the northern province in which slaves revolted by setting fire to plantation houses and fields and killing whites. He helped his former master and his wife escape. He also secured the safety of his family. Before he decided to get involved in the revolt, he organized an army of his own and trained his followers in the tactics of guerrilla warfare. He was known as the Black Napoleon. He led the Haitian independence movement during the French Revolution and briefly established Haiti as a black governed French settlement. The French National Convention, realizing that its own rule was being threatened, granted citizenship, rights, and freedom to all the blacks within the empire in a bid to secure their loyalty. Following this, Toussaint joined the French in their war against Spain in 1794. He led the French in capturing the Spanish controlled portion of the island. By 1801, he was ruling Santo Domingo as an independent state, although it was still officially under French rule. He drafted a constitution and abolished slavery. He was a very tactful, courageous, and idealistic governor general. He converted a society of slaves into an independent state and gave importance to the maintenance of law and order and encouraged trade and commerce. He professed himself a Frenchman to convince Napoleon Bonaparte of his loyalty. But Bonaparte saw him as a hindrance to the restoration of Santo Domingo, a profitable colony. Realizing Bonaparte's intentions, he organized a huge army in preparation for war because he was deeply concerned about preserving the free society he had so painstakingly built. Just as Toussaint had feared, Napoleon dispatched his brother-in-law, Charles Leclerc, along with a huge army to capture him. After a few weeks of violent fighting and considerable bloodshed, the Black Army began to weaken and several of the chief black leaders sided with Leclerc. Finally, Toussaint agreed to lay down his arms in exchange for Leclerc's promise not to restore slavery. But shortly afterwards, in act of betrayal, the French arrested and imprisoned him in Fort de Joux in Dubs in July 1802, where he died on 7th April 1803 at the age of 59 due to pneumonia and tuberculosis. On his life story, A French writer, Saint Remy Joseph, in 19th century, wrote a book called Vie de Toussaint L'Ouverture.